Hello, I'm Matthew Stewart, and this is sort of my capstone project. So for me, initially, it was a little difficult. My research and search, originally I chose to do something related to my college major, which is computer science. So a couple of years back, we did the stuff with the Bible class and looking for your future job and sort of what your interests are, and that whole binder work that we did. And I ended up looking and settling on something called software engineering. And that involves like writing code and building programs and sort of doing functions using computer code. So my first attempt at a capstone was I worked for someone named Levi, who's a family friend, and he kind of took me under his wing and kind of gave me a computer and kind of was like, okay, well, here you go. This is what you kind of need to do. And I worked for about a day. And then went in, and he was like, well, you want to see what I'm working on? And so I said, sure, yeah, I'll see what you're working on. And so he brought me over, and sort of looks just like that, but there were 500 lines, and it was just to change the color of a light bulb. So quickly, I realized that was not for me. So a couple weeks later, my dad was talking on the phone, and I overheard him talking about the Bleak House. Bleak House is this house right here. It's a historical home in Knoxville on Kingston Pike. Basically, the Bleak House was built around 1858, and it was a big location in Knoxville during the Civil War. It became a headquarters for the Confederate General Longstreet, and it was famous because the General Sanders of the Union was actually killed by one of the sharpshooters in the tower. And so it's kind of become one of the more famous buildings in Knoxville. And the soldiers, actually, you can still see the bullet holes in the sides of the house because it was a major point here in Knoxville. And then there's a hole up in the tower where there's a cannon shell. You can see where it's thought the 3 soldiers actually perished in the tower from that cannon shell. So the Bleak House today is more used as talk about the history, and is actually a really big common place for weddings and receptions and the dinners and things like that. So they're really a nonprofit organization. So their only source of income are these weddings and private donations. So it was really important to me to take care of this home since my parents actually had their wedding rehearsal dinner there 20 years ago. So it was really important to me to take care of it. So I met with the SCV, which I'll talk about that in here in just a second. But I proposed my idea, which for me was really difficult. Getting in front of groups that I do not know a single person is really hard for me, and being able to just present my idea is really difficult. So I struggled with that, and that was one of my biggest fears, was being turned down, because I knew that I'd have to go and search for something else, and this was something I was really passionate about. But things couldn't have gone better. Actually, it was one of the longest meetings we've ever had, but it was about 30-ish members present at the meeting, and they actually came to the conclusion to take on my project and work with me. I never really thought it was possible, but my mentor, Mr. Earl Smith, really helped make it possible. He helped me to take action quickly and get the work done. After that, I had to actually propose the idea to the caretakers of the house, the United Daughters of the Confederacy. They kind of own the house and are organizing the events and the things that go on there. And so I had to present my idea a second time to them in their meeting, and they gladly agreed to let me take care of the repairs and the damage and the groundskeeping, kind of take care of the yards. So, okay, I said I'd talk about the SCV. The Sons of Confederate Veterans started in 1896, and there was a charge given by General Stephen D. Lee in 1906, which I think represents them pretty well. It says, "To you, Sons of Confederate Veterans, we submit the vindication of the cause for which we fought. To your strength will be given the defense of the Confederate soldier's good name, the guardianship of his history, the emulation of his virtues, the perpetuation of those principles which he loved and which made him glorious, and which you also cherish. Remember, it is your duty to see that the true history of the South is present to future generations." So in order to be a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, you just have to present documented ancestors who served in the Army, the Confederate States Army, Navy, Marines, or their government. For me, up until this point, I've found about 18 ancestors. So it's kind of neat to see the family history run back and see it all tie in together really neatly. So basically, the SCV is a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. It's recognized by the United States government as a veterans advocacy group. It also denounces forms of racism and ones who misuses the Confederate flag and said things like that. It's got members from many demographics, and regardless of their skin color, race, and whether it just really determines if they served honorably in the armed forces. So we started off really with a work weekend. We knew we had to do a lot of groundskeeping, and really here, this picture here really I took after the fact. All of this overgrowth here was grown up, all this, it had like vines growing down the sides, the bushes were out of control, and we had actually trimmed these bushes back. We had about a 6 or 7 foot high pile of debris just from this upper part, and there's 5 levels of stuff. So we actually got in touch with the Kappa Alpha fraternity at the University of Tennessee, and so they agreed to help us because like their spiritual, like I guess you'd say, father is Robert E. Lee. So it kind of tied in really nicely, and they agreed to help us because we were helping them, and we kind of worked out a deal with them, and they came in. After we had gone in and cut the limbs and stuff the day before. So me and the SCV members went in and cut the limbs and stuff down before, and they came in and carried a lot of the limbs away. We brought in some rakes and we cleaned up all those leaves. This is from one of the levels, and I took it from the other side, but I mean, we completely got it as clean as we physically could. So that was a big thing for that. And there are also ponds in this garden. I'll talk about it. You can see it when I show the gazebo. But these ponds are in some bad condition, and they really need to be resealed too. So I'm still in the process of trying to get a pool company to donate their services to help us with that. Along with this work week, there was one other thing. We got the 2 dumpsters donated to help us, and they were willing to carry away whatever we could fit in the dumpster. So we made 2 dumpsters full fit. It was a lot of leaves. I mean, we had to get in with chainsaws and cut all the limbs back in that dumpster, and we're making everything we physically could fit. Big major reason I really took up this project was the roof. The inside of the house, if you can see right here, clearly right there and here, there's severe water damage on the inside of the house, and it's really starting to affect the structural integrity. I really didn't want to see something this historical fall apart like that. So this summer, I'm planning with Mr. Earl, since it's been too cold this winter to get it through. We have to get up on the roof and seal the holes in the metal. And you can kind of see here, like we had a contractor come out. His name was Mr. Cliff Helton. He came out and kind of gave us a rundown of what was wrong with the roof and kind of told us what we need to do and kind of recommended something with a special kind of caulk to use to seal the roof and that would really keep the water out. We unclogged the gutters and determined there's still some gutters that are potentially clogged in the house. So we got to kind of run through that and figure out which ones those are and do that this summer once it warms up and we can seal the roof and it kind of warm up and dry out. As Mr. Cliff, after we had finished the roof, Mr. Cliff, Mr. Earl and I had asked him to come and recommend materials for this gazebo. This gazebo is really the starting point we did with the house. Mr. Earl, this is where I kind of heard about it. Mr. Earl had gone in and looked at the pillars, and they had been made of wood, and he said they were completely rotted at the bottom, completely. Like, it was a miracle that the gazebo is even still standing, especially with the weight of the roof. So we went in and asked Mr. Helton what kind of materials would probably be best, and he recommended fiberglass. And right there, he actually did something none of us really expected, and he donated all 6 pillars and the materials we needed, which so each pillar was about $200 a piece. and he donated all 6 of them and just told us we needed to go pick it up. So we were pretty flabbergasted and thanked him head over heels for donating that to us. But that wasn't the extent of, that was just the tip of the iceberg with this project. The roof was so heavy we had no means of, to get it back up if it were to fall. So we had to work one by one with each pillar and stand it up with wooden stilts to make sure it wouldn't fall. Because if it fell there, I don't think we could have gotten it back up. So we worked one by one with each pillar and put them in and made sure the weather was good so that it wouldn't mess up any of the foundation and things like that. After we had gotten that, we noticed also there's obviously the trim here is really rotted, and we had to go in and measure the boards and replace all of that. And this summer, too, this is the other little bit of ongoing we have left, is once it warms up, we're going to repaint and reseal the roof to the gazebo as well. So yeah, like the gazebo, like I said, with the brides, and it's very important to the weddings, the brides really like the gazebo for their pictures. So obviously this is a really important part for the funding of the house and the getting attention to the brides and potential clients that would be willing to work with the house and kind of donate and give money. So my takeaways really were learning that historical artifacts like this need to be preserved, and that sometimes we can take it for granted, and if we take it for granted too much, we won't have it anymore. And I feel like something like this, especially how old it is, we need it really to be tangible so someone can still understand some of the history and the evidence that things that are taught to them in schools has actually happened and that it's actually there. And you can actually see the things like the bullet holes in the wall. There's a bullet hole in the stairs inside. So you can kind of see it actually, I mean, you can understand and sort of get a feeling for what actually happened. I really did enjoy working on it. It was something I didn't think I'd enjoy, but getting outside and working was something I never thought I'd say I'd enjoyed. But I really did have fun working on this and plan to really take care and work with it in the future. We've planned and hopefully hope to get the Kappa Alphas to work with us each fall and set up like a program with them so they'll come out and kind of help us and we help them, and they clean the grounds for us and help us take care of it. And actually, we do have another work day this Saturday. We're going to go back in and do things that they need and take care of the house a little bit more. But I wouldn't change anything. I mean, I know I started it a little late, but it really, for me, I feel like I need it because I'm already a procrastinator, and being able to organize and get everything done and still keep a level head was really a challenge for me. So I feel like, all in all, I learned that even being a procrastinator, it really is important to have a level head because it won't get done if you don't. So I really, with my future, I decided, since I knew the software development really wasn't for me, I've got my major in computer science that UT has me enrolled for. So I've kind of sat around, being a big technology person I really think it'd be great to use both, because I loved a minor in history, but I'd love to take history and mix it with my computers and use it as a way to educate people and teach people like about history so that it make it a fun and interactive way to learn, and not make it constantly reading from a textbook or having to have someone lecture you. You can have an interactive way to enjoy history. So that's really, I think, my project.